Well, greetings and salutations. Welcome to this, another John Campea Show companion video. I am not, of course, John Campea. I'm Robert Meyer Burnett, and I'm filling in for John because after our 5-hour epic Avengers Endgame spoiler discussion, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of pages of questions that we didn't get to. In addition to all the other work we're doing, we're trying to get through all of the questions now. So I thank you for being here. And why don't we just begin? I'm going to just try and bang out as many of these as I possibly can. I'm going to try and see where I can go. So join me, won't you? Let's just start. So, New Fall Aziz says, Cap is supposed to take back and replace the stones. How's he going to replace the Soul Stone? Will it bring back Nat, Soul for a Soul? Love your show, by the way. You know, it's a good question, New Fall. I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine you don't get it back. I don't even know if anyone's ever replaced a Soul Stone. It's a good question. They could do a whole film about this, but I don't know the answer. Joe Clem 15 says, love the female superhero moment. My girlfriend really appreciated it. Agenda, yes. Epic, hell yes. Also, I want Pegasus. You know, I don't see why there's a problem with that. It was a great moment. It was a kick-ass moment. There's a lot of female. You realize just how many female characters there are in the MCU. And why not put them all together to kick ass? I mean, if they're going to make an A-Force movie, bring it on. I say, how cool would that be? But an agenda, not everything has an agenda now. Getting female characters together. I mean, I've been reading about female Marvel characters since I was a kid, so I thought it was pretty rad. Thiago Oliveira says, John, what do you think about Cap giving the shield to Sam? I have mixed feelings about it. He fought half the world for Bucky, and yet they didn't have a scene where they could properly say goodbye. You know what? I think that Bucky knew what Cap was going to do. I mean, they predate all this. They predate the MCU. I think Bucky knew. And I think, Bucky had his own issues he was still working through. Sam had been a soldier. He was also an Avenger for a long time. They fought side by side. Cap knew him. I think it was the better choice, to be honest. David Tapia says, how many timelines do you think there currently are? Well, probably, if you go through the quantum realm, an infinite number of timelines. Very interesting. I don't know. Robert asks, chances Tony becomes AI like Jarvis in the future MCU? I think that could be cool. I think that would be something that we could definitely probably count on. It's a way to keep Robert Downey Jr. as part of the franchise. And why not? I mean, he can record his lines wherever he is. Matt Warner says, you had a concern before that reversing the snap would reduce the impact of Infinity War. How do you feel now having seen Endgame? Well, you see, the people were gone for 5 years. 5 long years of half the creatures in the universe being snapped. I'm glad people came back, and I'm hoping that in Spider-Man Far From Home, they're going to deal with what the ramifications are of getting all those people back all at once. How does that tax the infrastructure that had adapted to deal with not people there for 5 years? Chief Dog 1100 says, I can't even hold my pee running in the house from work, but I did it for Endgame. Justice for the Yakuza. Thanks for the spoiler review. Well, thanks a lot for you, Chief Dog. I'm glad you're able to hold it. Enrique Mejia sent in a super chat. Thanks for the support, Enrique. Dakota Barber asks, or says, Thor, Tony, and Steve fighting Thanos was great. Steven holding Mjolnir, Avengers Assemble. They pay it off so much in this movie. Third act is my fave in any superhero movie. Tony and Steve arcs were emotional. Totally agree, Dakota. They absolutely were. What a kick-ass moment. Unbelievable. Mjolnir can't break Cap's shield, but Thanos' sword can. Sword can. Apparently so. You never know. I mean, who knows what kind of power he's wielding? That's one from Mike Rodriguez. John Mai says, how did Nebula bring Thanos' entire army with just one vial of Pym particle? Will Stark's daughter play a big role in the future? I love your show. Thanks. I think that they just used their technology and manufactured more Pym particles. I mean, we made them on Earth. They had far more advanced alien technology. They could probably make as many Pym particles as they needed. That's what I assumed anyway. Mike Rodriguez says Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet is taken down on Titan in Infinity War, but a non-powered, non-gauntlet Thanos can beat all the Avengers and Revengers. How? Well, Thanos is a pretty powerful guy all on his own, and did he beat them? I mean, it was a big fight. But again, it's a good question. Verinder Singh says, I wonder if James Cameron is sweating or maybe just thinking, wait till they get a load of me. Well, it's amazing. They've pushed back Avatar 2 by a year. Maybe Cameron needs to step up his game. So it won't be his end game. Andrew Omega said, first time, long time. My boyfriend Severo and I love the show. Round 5 of Endgame tonight for us. This time in Dolby Cinema, putting our A-list to good use. Well, Andrew, awesome. Glad you and your boyfriend Severo or Severo, is it Severo or Severo? Give my best, and I'm glad you're seeing Endgame 5 times. That's very, very cool. Enrique Meja says, in the end credits, I was confused to why they skipped the original 6 Avengers, but when I saw why, I had a big smile on my face. I saw it as the actors signing off. Even their signatures was a nice touch. For those who remember Star Trek 6, at the end of that movie, the cast signed off their autographs. It was beautiful, and I loved how they emulated that. Kevin Feige's a big Star Trek fan, so I know where he got it from, but I love that too. I thought it was great. CJ Dunn says, yeah, that's America's ass. Laugh out loud. Ass Guardians of the Galaxy. I hope that becomes a thing in the future. Well, maybe Thor and Star-Lord will have an ass off in honor of Captain America. Styler Manu 1 says, hi John, I'd like to share my analysis of time travel in Endgame. Tony Stark solves the conundrum when he constructs a holographic Mobius strip. It has the mathematical property of being unentoriable. Unentoriable. That's a tough word to say. I think you might be right about that, though. Andrew Omega says, the directors, writers, composer, editor, and Feige presented the movie to the ArcLight Hollywood Dome at 10:30. Opening night, what a moment. Man, I was at the 6 o'clock show at the Dome. I missed them. What a bummer. I wish you hadn't told me that. Noel Ryan says, had such a fantastic time watching Spoiler Free with so many surprises. Can't wait to see where the MCU will go from here. Me neither, man. And we got Shang-Chi, Black Widow, The Eternals. Who knows where they're going to go? I am excited. I'm upset, says, sucks we never saw Hulk at his full strength. Yeah, but I really like the Professor Hulk persona. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. I'm so really glad that we saw that. I thought it was very, very cool. Style Manu 1 says, the device Tony develops to navigate the quantum realm makes destinations out of possibilities, but the quantum mechanics stay in place. There can be multiples of one thing existing at the same time. Again, I don't presume to understand the quantum mechanics of time travel through the quantum realm, but that sounds plausible to me. I like that. Collins Ezanayim says, no end credit scene was appropriate. I did think the bells at the end were a nice touch. Maybe they were wedding bells or a funeral toll. I thought it was actually Iron Man. It brought you back full circle to when he's forging the first Iron Man suit in the caves. I thought that's how I took it. And I thought that was cool. I mean, I like that. If indeed that's what it was. Joseph Mitchell says 1.2 billion so far, legit shot at Avatar now. Well, we're $1 billion beyond that. I think it does. We'll know with its third weekend. It'll be a telltale sign. It's still racking up the dollars, though. CJ Dunn says Pepper was a very welcome surprise, and that insta-kill was amazing, nerderific fun. But just how is Peter supposed to start back at school 5 years after the snapping? Well, remember, Peter says he was gone for 5 minutes. He doesn't know 5 years passed by. They lit off on that ship. They wound up on Titan, and it's just been days for Peter. He's going to come back and find his friends like Ned, who were also snapped. And then there's going to be a whole bunch of people in his school that they're new. You know, they've been there, and he's not going to know them. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I really hope they deal with the ramifications of that in Spider-Man Far From Home, which will be kind of cool if they do. Styler Manu number 1 says, the MCU past is cemented in time and forever exists to allow for a subject to jump through time. Reality is experiential and the perception of time is linear regardless of jumps in the timeline. That could be true. Again, I love all this theorizing about time travel. It's fantastic. It might be my favorite byproduct of this movie, something I never would have expected. CJ Dunn says, I absolutely love the touch with the Sorcerer Supreme, how she legit knew Strange was coming and was supposed to be the best of us. I thought that was really cool, too. I loved everything with Tilda Swinton. Those two scenes were great. I really, really enjoyed them. I loved Nick Charlotte says, I loved Endgame. Best movie-going experience I've ever had. One question. When Cap goes back, how does he return the Soul Stone? I love you all 3000. Well, maybe returning the Soul Stone's easy. You just give it back to the Red Skull and he puts it back in place. But if you want to get it again, you have to sacrifice someone you love. That's kind of how I would think about it. Noel Ryan says, time travel is a tricky thing to do in films, and for the most part, I thought they did a great job. I did too. One of the most entertaining time travel sequences I think ever done. What a romp. So much fun. Styler Manus 1 says, the time heist of the Stones, Hulk snap, brought back people lost in the decimation, and restored the MCU reality. Excuse me. As said by the Ancient One, there aren't multiple timelines, there are multiple realities. Indeed. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Julius Goodwin says, in the comics, Steve Rogers passed the mantle of Captain America to Sam Wilson. There was a real world, vicious backlash of racism. Could it come again now that it has also happened in Endgame? Maybe. I don't know. I'd like to believe the world would be a kinder, gentler place after people... Remember, half the population were snapped, and so they lost 5 years. I mean, they didn't lose 5 years, really, but they were pushed forward 5 years, and half the people they knew weren't. So half the people on the planet Earth have aged 5 years, and the people that came back haven't. So there's going to be an adjustment period. I'd like to think that it makes all of us kinder, gentler human beings. I kind of wish, in a way, if I knew it was going to be reversed, maybe such a snap wouldn't be a bad thing. Maybe if we all went away for 5 years, we'd learn something. Who knows? Julius Goodwin says, I'm glad Stan Lee had one more cameo. Would have hated the last words people remember him by to be crazy, stupid, fine. You got me there. Yes, absolutely. Phil Bianco says, first time doing super chats besides the free one with my YouTube Premium. Long-time viewer. Sorry I didn't support sooner. It's okay. I've sentenced myself to a lifetime of ketchup on eggs. Bring the filthy. Well, Phil, thank you for that. Super chats the way we support these channels, and they're very much appreciated. I know John appreciates it, and I know I appreciate it because I work for John. So thank you for your first super chat. Devin Jackson says, where do you think the MCU goes from here? I don't know. I just keep thinking about the Buffy episode, Once More with Feeling. You know, when they sang that song, where do we go from here? The battle's won, and we're kind of done, so we'll shed our victory. And oh no, the battle's done, and we kind of won, so we'll shed our victory tear. Where do we go from... I don't know. I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, though. Styler Man 1 says, old Cap and Loki escape to create discrepancies. These actions would create alternate realities. This still happened, just not in our reality. I agree. Absolutely, 100%. Boom or bust. To me, it took way more to stop Thanos without stones. Yes, it did. Indeed, it did. Julius Goodwin says, from now on, whenever life says something, I am inevitable, I will gently whisper back, I am Iron Man. You know what, though? I think I'm going to say I am inevitable a lot more than I'm going to say I am Iron Man, because I'm not Iron Man. But I like the idea that I am inevitable. I don't think it's true, but I kind of like that idea, that I'm inevitable. I wish the girls I wanted to date in high school thought I was inevitable. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Ray Stone says, why is no one talking about Cap finally saying Avengers Assemble? He said it with every MCU character behind him. You know what? He kind of whispered it. I still loved it, but I maybe if he shouted it with his outstretched, shattered shield, but it was still great. I loved it. Ja'Cory Marshall sent us a super chat. Thank you, Ja'Cory. Ben Burnside says, I really enjoyed the movie. The writing and character interactions in this movie were absolutely astounding. That's where I think the Russos are best. I agree, Ben. I agree. Raymond Verada says, who do you want to lead the Avengers now? Old Cap, Smart Hulk, Doctor Strange, Black Panther? We can do the Illuminati now with Professor X. I love you 3000. That's a good question. I think Doctor Strange... You know, maybe Stephen Strange. I think that would be interesting. Interesting dynamic. Or, Stephen Strange. And I hope Shang-Chi joins. I want to see Shang-Chi in the Avengers. Carlos Hernandez says, I thought that Goose was going to appear floating in a little spaceship, swallow Thanos, and spit the gauntlet out, but what the movie did was good too. Well, Carlos, I'm a big Flerken fan. I would love to have seen that happen, but maybe it's for the best that it did not. You never know. Boom or Bust says, some fans act as if you can't critique Endgame. Any issues are dismissed as nitpicks. Do you find yourself being less critical with this movie? I don't. I think both John and I have been very critical of this movie. I just loved it. I thought it was kick-ass. I think it's an astonishing achievement, and I had a great time with it. Really did. And I think when you put it together with Infinity War, what an amazing bunch of films right there. Amazing bunch of filmmaking. I mean, you're looking at, what is that, almost 6 hours of greatness? I mean, how much fun is that? Amazing. Kevin Contreras says that 2012 Cap versus present day Cap fight was everything. I love that. Not a lot of people talk about that, but man, that was brutal and it was good. I loved it. Roshan Malapati says not enough Pym part for Thanos' ship to come back. Not enough Pym particles. I think they made their own. I think, as I said, with advanced technology, they made their own. Corey Marshall says previous Thanos was alive. Would he stop them? I don't know. Previous Thanos was alive. Would he stop them? But it was a different reality. I think there's only one Thanos in a reality. I don't know. At the time. Because the Thanos of our reality was dead. Then the Thanos from the past came to our reality. Jose Chavez says, what became of the barf tech showed in Civil War? Good question. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out in movies going forward. KW Garrett 83 says, over under 20% time travel gets Tony or Widow back in 5 years. I think 0. I think they're both gone. I don't think we're going to get them back. Julius Goodwin says, and I best see some genuflecting and worshiping of the altar of Iger and the Endgame where you can kiss your Disney money goodbye. Love that, Julius. You know me, Bob Iger and I go way back. Big fan. He's a hero of mine. I'll tell him that at our next squash game on Sunday. Johan says, I'm a Swedish exchange student in Florida right now, and I was worried the U.S. audience reactions would distract me, but it was actually really fun. Yeah, you Swedes, Johan, you guys are quiet in movies, aren't you? You don't hoot and holler like we Americans do. Roshan Malapati says, so many plot holes, still loved it, a visual treat. I don't know. Were they plot holes? I don't know if they were really plot holes. But Roshan, I understand. I mean, on first glance, they very well could be. Who knows? Kitchen Batter asks, do you think we will see Hulk in the new phase? Yes. I think we can almost guarantee that Professor Hulk will be in the MCU going forward. Life's Good says, Cap said Avengers Assembled. I yelled so loud. Well, I didn't yell, but I felt like yelling on the inside. My inner 8-year-old was screaming with delight. Let me tell you. Phil Bianco says, whatever it takes. Yes, Phil, whatever it takes. But now you have to apply that in the rest of your life. Whatever it takes. Ben Burnside says, I'm cool with what they did with Thor in the movie. He looked like Odin to me. What I wasn't cool with was what they did with Hulk. No Thanos, Hulk 2. Well, that's true, but that would have just been another battle. And he battled so many people. I really like what they did with Professor Hulk. I thought it was cool. I thought it was funny. It gave Ruffalo something more to do. He's a good actor. But Ben, I understand where you're coming from there. But I did like it. And I think Hot Toys is actually going to make a Professor Hulk figure. So I'm excited about that. Phil Bianco says, interesting point. Thought Thor looked like Boar. I don't know. Did that get cut off? I don't know. Julius Goodwin says, Professor Hulk, not Worldbreaker Hulk. A surprise. Yeah, I thought it was good. A welcome surprise. Worldbreaker Hulk, sometimes it's better to have character. Action's only good when you have great characters, and I really like what Ruffalo did as Professor Hulk. Boom or bust, Thor from Ragnarok was undone by Infinity War and Endgame. Sad. I don't think so. He's coming back. I think Thor is going to go discover himself. He's a new man. I liked it. John DeBenedict said, I teared up when Scott reunited with his daughter. I did too, man. I thought that was really a great moment. And a bunch of times during the end, including Tony's funeral and old Cap passing the torch to Sam. As John said, a lot of cry time in this movie. A lot of people crying. Absolutely. Corey Harper says, your dad liked cheeseburgers. Cry time, cry time. Yes, Corey. The whole movie, man. I was crying from the opening scene with Hawkeye losing his family. I cried like a little girl, I swear. The movie made me cry a lot. I was actually surprised how many times I teared up during a superhero movie. Eric Weshi says, great way to cap the saga. Thought Infinity War was better. Was a little disappointed in the overall handling of Thor in Endgame, though. I don't know, I thought he acquitted himself admirably at the end. I really liked seeing Hulk get that old Hulk back. He'll get back in shape. You know that he's going to hit the Bowflex with Star-Lord as they travel around the galaxy in the Benatar, vying for control of the Asgardians of the galaxy. Can't wait to see that. Ben Burnside says, Paul Rudd proved his acting worth in this movie. I'm also thankful that he's brought, of all things, Anchorman-type humor to the MCU. Very satisfying. I agree. I love Paul Rudd. I love Ant-Man. I thought that was a great way, Ben, to include him, and they've done a really good job. And he had a big role to play in Infinity War, in Endgame especially, and I really liked what he had to do in Endgame. I thought it was great. Infinity War was not... He didn't play such a big part in Infinity War. Mark Newman says, so Thor can magically braid his beard and change armor, but magical lipo is a no? Laugh out loud. Love the film, especially Cap with the Hammer. Apparently there is no magical liposuction, unfortunately. Jay-Z says, can't Gamora come back since they got the Soul Stone before Thanos? I don't know. I don't know where Gamora is. As we saw at the end of the movie, Star-Lord was searching for her. And if they bring Black Widow back, will it defeat the purpose of her sacrifice? I don't think Black Widow's coming back. I think in her movie it's going to be a prequel film. Kind of like how they killed Han in Fast and Furious 3 Tokyo Drift, but he was in Fast and Furious 4, 5, and 6. They could do that. They could pull a Han Solo. Cody Carroll says, with having the same initials, I was hoping to see Stan Lee's name next to Scott Lang's on the Vanished Wall. Oh, that would have been good, but it was too, they'd already filmed it. Curious if Jack Kirby was on one also. I do not know the answer to that, Cody, but it would be interesting to see. Marv Diesel says, I thought Widow and Ronan were going to jump at the same time and both live having sacrificed each other. Boy, was I wrong. Yeah, so was I. I didn't think they'd kill Black Widow, but they did. Black Widow is dead. Scarlett Johansson died for our sins. Julius Goodwin says, from now on, will either of you look back behind you and say, yep, that's America's ass right there. I've been saying that every morning in the shower when I get out. You know, I got a mirror reflecting me. I just turn around, I look at myself, and I'm like, yep, that's America's ass. It's a little flatter and saggier than I'd like, but certainly it's still America's ass. M. Droscher says, when Cap yells Avengers Assemble, it was the biggest nerdgasm in the movie. The movie was so good, there's so many callbacks to previous MCU films. I agree, sir. They really are. I loved it. Sujis says, we've witnessed pop culture history in the making. Every character given justice, especially Tony. Emotional arcs truly earned. Oh my God, such heart and sincerity. Sujith, couldn't agree more. Love the film. Seen it 3 times now. It's just an amazing achievement in fantasy cinema and certainly in superhero cinema. Loved everything about it. Antonio De Grandis says, I guess the Black Widow movie is a prequel. That's what I'm to understand, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. Johnny5619 says, so if Cap stayed back in time, did he have to kill himself to take his past place, or were there 2 Caps through the time? I think there were two Caps in that reality. But remember, if he went back in time, most of his life, he would be the only person there. The other Cap would be frozen in the ice. So, Johnny, I think there were 2 Caps, but only for a little bit of time. Mickey B says, we'll be watching Endgame during live discussions. Wife brought extra tissues. Hope we survive it. Also, we died when you said you love Noises Off. Yes. Noises Off. John loves Noises Off. He's a song and dance man. Louis Valles, or Luis Valles? Yeah. Is that Valles? Or Valles? Luis Valles. I think it's Luis Valles, right? Favorite part of the movie, Captain America versus Thanos. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So good. But Cap he took some punches, man. Julius Goodwin says, guess Loki telling Thanos that he'd never be a god was prophetic, because that's what Thanos tried to become in the end, and he failed. Absolutely. Ben Burnside says, love all the movie talk shows online, starting with AMC Movie Talk, but I honestly think that I was numb to the results of this movie because of so much speculation. Well, Ben, that could be. I mean, I think, as with these movies, they stand the test of time, so you can always revisit it and see what you think. Gabriel Rivero says, now I understand why Doctor Strange saved Tony's life in Infinity War by giving the Time Stone to Thanos. He predicted that Tony would be the one who killed him. Could be. Frankie Gouge says, one thing that made the 300 million plus weekend was digital media need to add another room showing, no problem. That's very true. Now with DCPs, they can add showings that are no problem. They don't need film prints like they did in the old days, so they can get more screenings. Max Hughes says, Spider-Man carrying the gauntlet, being pulled by Mjolnir, thrown by Cap 2, and then be picked up by Pepper and brought up to the back of Valkyrie's flying horse. Crazy. Yes, Max, it was so good. I love that. It was so much fun. The movie was so much fun. They knew what we wanted. They gave it to us. How great was that? Boom or bust. W Endgame time travel. What is that? W Endgame time travel rules. Cap would not have returned. I don't know. He did have that GPS, that time GPS. Maybe that had something to do with it. Julius Goodwin says, half the theater jumped to their feet when Black Panther stepped through the portal. It really was just that epic a moment. Yabambi. I don't know how to say that. I can't speak Wakandan. Ben Burnside said, that Captain America speech at the group therapy meeting with Joe Russo about not giving up was one of the most inspirational things I've heard. You know what? I think that scene was great, and no one talks about that enough. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Flute Bates says, what happened to past Gamora? We don't know. That's what Star-Lord was looking for. We don't know. Shane Bennett says, he would have had to put the Reality Stone back inside. Oh, this is one of two questions. Shane Bennett says, how did Cap go about putting all the stones back? I assume he doesn't know how to rebuild the Tesseract or Loki's scepter. He would have to put back the Reality Stone inside Jane Foster, and returning the Soul Stone was probably an awkward reunion. It's true. Could be a movie. They could make a whole movie about Cap returning. That should be the next Marvel one-off. When they used to make the short films for their home video releases, they should make one about Cap returning the stones. I'd love to see that. Bit Clarky says, Thanos could return, undust him at a later stage, and if the stones in the current time are gone, then Doctor Strange is now without the Time Stone. Doctor Strange is without the Time Stone. What's up with that? What are they going to do now? Gerald Quintana says, one of the best shots of the movie was when Cap faced off against Thanos and his army before the rest of the Avengers showed up. Such a badass. As we've said before on the show, wouldn't it be great to have a poster of that? So good. Sujis says, lots of cheers, Captain Marvel in the theater, and one guy shouting F you to Thanos after she thrashed his ship. But yet again, Thanos, best villain ever. I agree. I love the warrior Thanos of this movie the same way I love the philosopher Thanos in Infinity War. Great stuff. Not a very good father, though. Durrell Best Wadley says, Cap, I can do this all day. Old Cap, yeah, I know. Loved it. I love that. It was so much fun. The way he said it, yeah, I know. So good. JCL Production says, I'm wondering, since Stark's nanotech isn't solid material and always moving, is that why he was able to bear the stones without taking the brunt of the power, or the grunt of the power? I'm trying to understand the logic. Maybe. I mean, that makes sense to me. His nanotech could have channeled the power differently. Remember, he was the only one that really had time to really study the Infinity Stones. I mean, maybe Professor Hulk did, but Tony spent a long time looking at the Infinity Stones and trying to figure out how they work. Tyler Yeats said, what was the spoiler you saw? For me, it was Hulk with the Infinity Gauntlet. No, for me, it was Mjolnir, Cap and Mjolnir, and I was pissed. But you know what? It didn't really, honestly, it didn't ruin what I saw in the film. It really didn't. Still loved it. JCL Production says, so is the Power Stone the only one you need to be strong to hold on to? Hawkeye held up the Soul Stone, no problem. What are the rules on this? I don't know, but I think once you've earned the Soul Stone, I think you can hold on to it. I think that's part of the deal, I would imagine. Angel Chang sent in a super chat. Thank you, Angel. Tyler Yeats says, love the movie so much. Never been in a theater with that much energy. Oh my God. When Cap said Avengers Assemble, what did you think when he picked up Mjolnir? Like I said, I was squealing like a little kid on the inside. I loved it so very much. JCL Production says, elevator scene was genius. Hail Hydra. Laugh out loud looked almost like the same footage at first until you see the guy with the glasses inside. So good. It was so good the way they did that. I loved all the callbacks to the other movies, and that was one of my favorites. So good. Aaron Kin said, it's weird, but I'm so good with this closure, and I'm not terribly excited about an MCU with no Cap, no Tony, Professor Hulk, and confused Thor. Well, they're going to add new characters. Give it time. Trust in Feige. They played you already. They'll keep playing you. Stephen Blay says, Stephen Blay? I noticed I was breathing very heavily as soon as the movie started, in disbelief that I was actually going to watch this movie. So much cry time. Wasn't there? So much. Angel Chang says, that's why Spider-Man's trailer was censored. 5 years. Totally. That's why. And it was very astute of John to point out that you could not read the date on the passport. People would have known. They would have figured it out. Darth Suthia says, like Thanos being destiny and inevitable, you could say Tony was the same. He was destined to save everyone, but his ultimate demise was inevitable. Daryl Best Wadley says, no Captain Marvel in America, same name jokes. Not anymore. Paul Licari says, Falcon has no powers. How can he be the new Cap? I don't know. Maybe you need heart. Just a good heart. But he is the Falcon, so maybe he's going to wield the shield as Falcon. We don't know. Gerald Quintana says, do you think they nerfed Thor to make it an even fight with Thanos? Also wish the Hulk went berserk during the final fight, but we can't have everything. Yeah, but he got injured when he snapped. So, he wasn't up to fighting, so that didn't bother me. The Thor brought everybody back. So he did an incredibly heroic thing, but I understand. I don't think Thor was nerfed. That's a funny term, though. I like thinking like that. Thor was nerfed. Darth Maul says, Tony's death and Steve getting to live his life with Peggy brought tears to my eyes. My favorite Avenger died a hero, but will always be remembered. Proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Yeah, and I love that callback. Proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Jacob Orman says, did you see the influence from the Star Trek The Next Generation finale? It's been a while since I watched the episode, but I could definitely see some connections. Yeah, the whole traveling to the different eras, I thought it was a great call. I mean, it was a great call by Feige to use that, to emulate that. I thought it was great. Ryan Lohner says, still hoping Shuri becomes a new Iron Man. For the record, I had no idea there was a black female one in the comics when I predicted it last week. Yeah, Ironheart. And, could be Shuri. But, I think Shuri really does belong in Wakanda. But maybe she could wield Iron Man armor. Tyler Yeats says, might see it again today at 4:30. Well, did you? I want to know. Anaruda Desai says, John, love your show. I was so overwhelmed on both my viewings during the final battle scene that I missed a lot of the details. I was grinning the whole time Captain Marvel picked up Mjolnir and started wreaking havoc on Thanos. Man, it was so great, wasn't it? So very good. By the way, I love your name. What a great name. Roy L. says, were you able to get your collectible popcorn tin? I had the option to do that, but I opted not to just because I just didn't want to carry it around with me. But it was cool. Greg C. says, do you think Captain America always knew he could wield the hammer, but he just didn't want to show up Thor? No, I don't think so. I think it was something he thought of in the heat of battle, and it worked. I don't know who decides that, but I enjoyed it. I certainly loved it. And what an iconic, not just an iconic moment in the MCU, but in film history. Greg C. says, if Thanos is dead from another timeline, how does that affect that timeline, especially when they're trying to be careful not to make so many changes? I don't know. That's a good question. Is reality at risk? I don't know. M. Droscher says, didn't see Black Widow's death coming. I don't think anybody did. I certainly didn't. Greg C. says, what did the Ancient One Tilda mean by she might have made a mistake? Thanks, love your videos. Well, maybe they might have, I think she was saying she might have made a mistake by choosing Stephen Strange if Stephen Strange gave away the Time Stone, but there was more to it than met the eye, so maybe she was proven wrong. I mean, clearly Strange knew what he was doing. Greg C. says, how did Captain America end up on the bench in the current timeline if he went back in time and spent his life with Peggy from another timeline? I don't know. I don't know how he did, but he did have that GPS time device to get back to his own time. I don't know. It's a good question. Greg C. says, what happened to Gamora? What happened to Gamora? She was from the alternate timeline. She wasn't on the Guardians of the Galaxy ship with Thor, but Quill wasn't sad. Is she dusted? Thoughts? I think she might have been dusted because Tony didn't know in his mind. He didn't know who she was. And I think she definitely might have been dusted. Maybe that was the point. Maybe she was actually dusted too. And part of Guardians 3 is about getting her back. I don't know. Illiterate Book Club says, "Hey, John, you're awesome." And, "Oh, hey, it's Rob. You're great too." Thanks, man. I've seen it twice, going on number 3 today. Hearing it has already reached 1.2 billion this fast, over under 35%. It beats Avatar. I'm going to take the over on that. I think it will depend on what happens the third weekend, but it's closing in. We're almost at 1.3 billion. It's coming up. We'll see. You inspired me to start my channel. Thank you. Well, good luck to your channel. Congratulations on doing that. I think it's great. Catman says Thor felt wasted because of all the fat jokes. Well, I don't think so. I mean, he still came back in the end and kicked ass. I loved seeing, look, overweight Thor or not, when the three of them stepped out into the wreckage of Avengers headquarters to take on Thanos. I thought that was epic. Anaruda Desai says, that scene where Thor explains the ether is so funny. Everyone is just confused, but the Ant-Man, he doesn't even know what the Infinity Stones are, so he's interested in the story. Totally agree. I thought that was great. Paul Rudd's great. So good. Anthony Garcia says, I thought China bans all travel content. How does Endgame get around this? Well, China allows certain movies in from different countries. So Endgame was certainly one that they allowed in, and it's a good thing, too, because it's making a lot of money there. Lawrence RBE says, I wish Hulk would have a fight scene with Thanos for revenge from Infinity War. I would have liked more screen time for Black Panther. That said, excellent movie. Yeah, but this movie was really about the original core Avengers team, the 6 Avengers, and I liked it for that reason. I thought that was a great way to go. Scuba Steve says, he doesn't say anything. He just sent us a super chat. Thanks, Scuba Steve. Frank Bono says, why can't they get Widow back if they return the Soul Stone? A soul for a soul sounds right. It does, but I don't know if that works, because they still took the Soul Stone. So just because you give it back, you still had to sacrifice something to get it. You don't get what you've given. You already took the Soul Stone. Whether you want to give it back or not, I don't think that's how it works. MCV Multiverse. What happened when Cap returned the Soul Stone? Did Nat return, fight with Red Skull, or did Cap really stay with Nat, not Carter? Cap didn't talk about her. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what happened. It's interesting. I think they can make a whole movie about it. Illiterate Book Club says, we saw one Stark die this week. How many Starks will have died by the end of tonight? Well, you were referring, of course, to the Long Night, the Battle of Winterfell. It came out all right for the Starks. I know, it's Endgame talk. Still funny, though. Absolutely, it's funny. Hector Jeter says, wow, 350 million, so take it from now on. Any big movies that opens less than 300 mil will be considered underperforming to some people. Laugh out loud. I know. I mean, what Avengers Endgame did was insane, crazy, just nuts. Jordan's Channel, I wish the last movie was the end. I like the idea of the villain still achieving his goal, even if the heroes beat him in the fight. Endgame good, though. I don't know. I think it's probably best for the Marvel Cinematic Universe that they were able to thwart the plans of Thanos. Half the creatures in the universe, you'd rather have them be gone? Plus, it made for an epic scene when they returned. Jeremiah says, so was this Black Widow movie a big misdirect? Nope. They're making the Black Widow movie. I think it's a prequel. Square Wheel says, the combination of words to hear a 47-year-old man squeal like a 6-year-old girl. On your left, Cap. Totally. I agree. Captain Obvious. When the Avengers returned from retrieving the stones from the past, everyone was devastated when Nat wasn't with them. But what about Nebula? But yeah, Nebula, that's a good... Well, Nebula did come back because it was fake Nebula. They didn't... It was... Remember, it was the old Nebula, the Nebula from the other timeline. She came back, so she was there. Captain Obvious. Jeremiah says, I think Thor would have been able to take the snap for being out of shape. Honestly, the only gripe I personally had. Yeah, I understand everybody wants Thor to be all perfect, but that's, I thought it was great seeing characters in different ways than we've ever seen them before. I think that's okay. Rogue says, in Guardian 3, I want a montage of Quill and Thor losing weight together and being workout buddies. They would be very competitive. Oh, I think I can guarantee we're going to get some kind of scene like that. We absolutely are going to do that. I'll bet. Shane Bennett says, the climax of the film was like losing my virginity all over again. There was a moment in my head where I went, holy shit, this is finally happening. Joseph Forrest says Catherine Langford scenes were cut. Yes, she was supposed to play the old Tony's daughter, Tony's daughter grown up, and Tony was going to see her, I guess, after he'd made the snap before he died, and they thought it was redundant. I actually would have liked to have seen that. I hope it's on the deleted scenes. Herc08 says, have to respectfully disagree, John. I enjoyed the first 2 acts. I do agree that Thor was one big joke. It got real annoying real fast. He braids his beard but doesn't slim down his waist. Well, maybe that's all he could do. His beard isn't necessarily, it's not going anywhere. Losing weight, you'd have to lose the weight, but his hair was already there, so it could be, I don't know. Don Ronald Lim says, if you're the Russos, how would you have improved Acts 1 and 2? I loved Acts 1 and 2. I would have made Act 1 much longer. I loved them. I don't think you can improve Acts 1 and 2. Nick says, Ebony Mom, Mr. Thanos, I don't feel so good. Yeah, you see him in the distance. It's in the wide shot where Ebony Maw gets dusted. I wanted to see him. It would have been good if he stuck around. Dren Chin said, is there any plot hole that really annoys me? No, not at all. Kazakh284 says, I'm so glad the Russos nailed Captain Marvel. I loved her wrecking Thanos' ship. And then the A-Force shot. As a woman, it's all I wanted as a little girl. I know, right? We forget that. Half the audience in the world is female. That was a great moment for the female audience. Loved it. I loved it as a dude. What's not to love? Nothing Here says, Captain America holding the hammer was the greatest thing that happened in the movie or in any movie ever, and my whole theater erupted and people were crying. People equals me. Great cinematic experience. Well, Nothing Here, you're right about that. Jacob King says, I spent $60 of my own money to take my parents to see Endgame on the biggest screen in town. Oh my God, you tell us that, but you don't tell us if your parents liked it? I would love to know what parents thought of Endgame. Write us back and tell us. Dren Chin says, what's your I can't believe they totally did it scene? I just think that one long shot where they're all running past the camera, all those heroes, the whole MCU, I was like, wow, man, that was dope. I couldn't believe it. Anthony Platt says, Ancient One, I'll never give up the time stone. Bruce, Doctor Strange did, Ancient One. Doctor Strange did, Ancient One. Shoot, that's all you had to say. Shoot, that's all you had to say. NTNLV says 16 says suits and Pym particles are needed for the Avengers, but for Thanos' army, the machine just opens a portal and they can casually go through. No, I'm sure they manufactured their own Pym particles and shrunk the ship because they have advanced technology. They just analyze what the Pym particles are and make them. Justin Welsh says, I'm Ghibli John and crew. Sing it now at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great spoiler discussion, and I will be listening after. Well, thanks, Justin. I appreciate that. How'd you like the film? I guess you liked it. Jim Bam Baru says, it didn't occur to me till later. The first thing Tony said in Iron Man 1 when he got to the USA is something like, the first thing I want is American cheeseburger. Yep, that's what he said. That's what he said. And yes. So Jim Jambaru, you are correct. Micah T says, I love the movie even though it was hard saying goodbye to my favorite character of all time. Robert Downey Jr. started the MCU and Tony Stark saved the MCU. They also got me to cry with one word, cheeseburgers. I'm telling you, man, cry time. Anaruda Desai says, all the original Avengers got a much-deserved story arc in Endgame. Who do you think received the best story arc in this movie? I think Tony. Tony and Cap. And, Thor too, actually. I liked all the characters. They all had something to do. All the original Avengers. I loved Thor and Professor Hulk. I thought it was great. Dancing Dog 60 says, did all of Peter's classmates get dusted as well? I think, at least half of them did. Maybe he just had a disproportionate amount. We know Ned got dusted. He's still in school. Innovation Film says, how can old Captain America be alive in the end since he stayed back in time to live a life with Peggy? He should be in an alternate timeline and not the reverse snap timeline since he didn't beam back on the time pad. Well, he did have that GPS. Maybe he did. Who knows? I don't know. I have to read more articles about what the Russo brothers say. Jim Jambaru says, I work at the last drive-in in my state. We played Endgame this weekend, and it's been such a great time. Wow, I'd love to see Endgame in a drive-in. Is your drive-in packed? I used to love drive-ins. Dooley says, I honestly think Thanos memes help the box office a lot. I have some friends who weren't into movies but wanted to go see Endgame because of the memes. What a time to be alive. Ha, ha, ha. Hey, man, I agree. Rufino Salazar Jr. says, is Thanos worthy? He intercepted Stormbreaker. I don't know. Do you have to be worthy to lift Stormbreaker or just powerful? You have to be worthy to lift Mjolnir, but who knows about Stormbreaker, because didn't Odin bless Mjolnir somehow? Chief Dog 1100 says Jarvis was the same actor in Agent Carter. Yes, he was. How cool was that they got him back? That was amazing. Loved it. Dancing Dog 60 said, did Cap punch Red Skull when he went back? I would imagine. You know what? I bet they just sat down and talked. Because Red Skull, I mean, he probably was shocked seeing Captain America. They probably sat down and had a conversation about the world, knowing Cap. I bet they did. Rogue, Thor to Cap. No, switch me. You take the small one. So good. Such a funny moment. They didn't have to do that, but they did that. I loved it. Oh, Jim Jambaroo says, also at the end of the credits, my friend realized the metal hammering sounds are from the first Iron Man making the Iron Man 1 suit in the cave. Yeah, the Mark 1. Absolutely. That's exactly what they were. Alan Gonzalez says, so the dusted are not in the future? Are they mutations now? Who knows? I don't know. We don't know. Phoenix Arising says, I called it on your show that the handshake was a misdirect. We now know it misdirected the time GPS. Yes, that is true. They know what they're doing over there at Marvel Studios. A fan of Peanuts says, not a perfect movie, but damn, it was the perfect end. Greatest end. Avengers Assemble. I am Iron Man. It's so much fun. Love the movie so much. Stephen Blaze says, Cap-wielding Mjolnir had me yelling at the screen. I think we were all yelling at the screen. It was such a great moment. Film Boss says, when Cap commands Avengers Assemble, they're already fully assembled. They then charge at Thanos. It's fan service that doesn't make sense in the scene. Look, the guy's brutalized. It's the first thing that he thinks of. It's time to assemble and go. When you were beaten like that, your head's ringing. Tony Peck says, great scene in Avengers 1 made even better by the movie. Steve to Tony, you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play to lay down on a wire. Yeah. Well, it was a good thing. Emmanuel Perez says, can you please explain how it got to 350 million when you were so convinced it wasn't even going to make over 300 million? I saw 300 million coming, not 350. I don't think anyone did. I mean, this movie is truly a phenomenon. So many people went and saw it. It really is. It was really incredible. Shane Bennett says, the Earth has now had 3 infinity snaps occur, and this film states that with every snap, a massive burst of cosmic energy. Mutants explain, could be. But remember, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, even though they weren't called mutants, are indeed mutants. So they're around. We'll see. Dark Sith says, some plot holes, yes, but man, this movie made me feel like I was a kid again reading comics at my local comic shop. Great film. Totally agree. Both Infinity War and now Endgame are the closest thing to replicating the experience of reading these big crossover comics that I've ever come across. Truly great stuff. Jim Jambaroo says, fastest film to reach 1 billion worldwide only in 5 days. Also now the fastest film to reach 2 billion. 11 days? Incredible. Padraic Conway says, never. Oh, I'm upset says, will there be a Thor 4? I think there's going to be a Thor 4. I really do. Patrick Conway says, never cried watching a movie until now. I was 8 when it started, now 19. It was hard seeing Tony, Nat, and Steve go. Avengers Assemble. I agree, man. Can you imagine? I mean, more than half your life. The MCU has been around more than half your life. And isn't it great that you got to grow up with the MCU? What a cool thing to have. I wish I was your age, and when I was your age, I had those movies. I mean, I had other movies, but nothing like the MCU. I was a huge comic book fan, though. My biggest comic book fandom was probably in high school and college and out of college, and it would have been. I would love to have seen that. Dark Sith says, seen this movie 5 times this weekend. Tomorrow, number 6. Where are you at now? NTNLV. Nate Love. 16. I also don't see any logical reason why Tony couldn't have been brought back by Strange using the time stone on his body like Thanos did on Vision. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work that way. Who knows? NTNLV16 says, overall, I had a really good time. I'm just a little frustrated. It's one of those movies you have to shut your brain off to fully enjoy. Or, what's interesting is if you're looking for nitpicks, you're going to find them. But I think everything's kind of explained in the movie, other than what Cap did when he went back in time, when he put back Mjolnir and the Infinity Stones. Eric Theed sent us a super chat. Thank you, Eric. Innovation Film says, according to the Ancient One, if the Infinity Stones create what we experience to be the flow of time, how come the space-time continuum wasn't disrupted or destroyed when Thanos destroyed the stones? Good question. Probably because they went all at once instead of being taken away piecemeal. So the universe was put out of balance. It was still in balance because all the stones went at the same time. Phoenix Arising said, getting ready for Endgame, I rewatched Infinity War. How did Thor know to go to Wakanda? Thanos said he was going to Titan, but Thor gets Stormbreaker and goes to Earth. Why? Plot hole? I don't think so. They're just trying to get back to Earth. I mean, maybe because they were told by Rocket. Who knows? I don't know the answer. I don't think it's a plot hole. Earth is kind of the center of all this, so you never know. David Burgoa says, handshake, misdirect, and Spidey insta-kill, wink, wink. So good. So good. Spidey insta-kill was so good. I'm so happy I have a Hot Toys of the Iron Spider. Nate G says, I'm a Doctor Who fan, so maybe that's why the time travel plot holes don't bother me. The experience of the movie delivered trumps logic problems. Loved it. I agree. It does trump logic problems. I had so much fun with this, and I think if you go back and look, there's probably a lot more in there that shows you that it's not so much plot holes, it's just stuff we don't quite understand. JB Bonifacio says, the cheeseburger line at the end got me every time. Totally agree. I loved it. A fan of Peanuts says, John, if Gamora was brought back in some capacity, why couldn't they bring back Black Widow? Black Widow's dead. You know, she died. Her soul's gone. Whatever she needed to do to trade for the Soul Stone, it happened. There's no coming back from that. Once it happens, it happens. Come on, buddy. David J. Loy said, 7th best MCU movie in my opinion. Really liked the film, but found it weird how Spider-Man, who would be 23, goes back to high school at the end. No, Spider-Man wouldn't be 23. Spider-Man was dusted. 5 minutes passed by. He's exactly the same age as he was in Infinity War. He didn't age during those 5 years. He didn't exist. He was in non-existence. So he's exactly the same age as he was in Infinity War. Movie facts. Hey, John and Rob. Grant here. I hope you're well. Have you seen more career-defining performances from Robert Downey Jr.? His performance had everything. You know what? I don't know if it's as good as his performance in Chaplin, but it was damn good. I really thought it was terrific. So, yeah, it was damn good. Ryan Lohner said the cheeseburger line is all the better coming from the director of Iron Man who started the whole thing. I agree. Totally agree. He probably saved that line for himself, too. Paul Stevenson, thanks for the super chat. Reggie Phoenix says, I guess we know why the passport in the Far From Home trailer didn't show the year. Indeed. Absolutely. Everyone would have known 5 years had passed. Daryl Gann says, wasn't too crazy how Hulk was handled. Miss Old Hulk. Didn't he kind of disappear in the final battle? Well, he did because he had snapped. I mean, if it wasn't for Hulk snapping his fingers, nobody would have come back. And that's why he was wounded. He couldn't fight. David Lillian said, movie reviews and more. I don't understand the end thing with Cap at all. All I can say is that there's many people who've explained it online. The Russos are addressing it. There's so many places to go, which it reminds me I need to go read those things so I understand it. Ben Jisusa says, R.I.P. Rest in peace, Tony Stark. Thank you for being with us for the last 11 years. You can rest now. We're going to be all right that last hour. Holy shit. I agree, Ben. Jisusa, that was amazing. Amazing. Loved it. Nathan DC Marvel, I've seen it 3 times. I've cried every time. Totally agree. Robin John says, Zach Losel, we love you 3000. Well, thank you, Zach, and I appreciate all the support on this channel and on my own. Thanks for your letters, too. Colin Emerson says, on your left, so good. On your left is going to be something people say all the time. Chris Wright says, what do you think the Avengers lineup will be now? I don't know, but there's been some great posters online. I just want Shang-Chi to join. Master of Kung Fu. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. Film Boss says, Infinity War said that to get the Soul Stone, you must sacrifice what you love most. Now retcon to what you love. Hawkeye doesn't kill her, she sacrifices herself. Well, I don't know if it's retcon. I mean, it's not exactly, we don't have the owner's manual. There's different ways to do things, I think. I mean, the love and the mutual respect that Black Widow and Hawkeye have for each other is a deeper, different kind of a love. And, you know, Hawkeye still, it was a self-sacrifice, but he lost what he loved. So as far as the Soul Stone's concerned, I think he earned it. Trey Brown says, what happened when Tony snapped all bad guys dusted? Wasn't expecting to Pepper to suit up. It was flame. It was fire. It was great. How about when they were fired, that one shot of them spinning around, firing it together? I love that. I thought that was great. Oskabat says, I'm hoping this is the last Avengers movie. I'm all for more team-ups under other names, but Endgame felt a great end to the Avengers franchise. You know what? I tend to agree with you. They've got different teams they could make up. Or they could call it the New Avengers. I don't know, something. Ross Pitt Shark Hunter says, in my opinion, the Cap versus Cap fight was probably the worst of the film. It was extremely shaky and cut between shots too much. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. And it probably cut between shots. It was cut that way because it was all a special effect, so they had to sell it. Shane Bettis says, I remember when I was 13 when I first saw the trailer for Iron Man on the DVD for Beowulf and knew it was going to be huge. It's crazy to think that it's all over and there aren't any more MCU films. Oh, wait. I know, right? We're getting a bunch more. Can't wait. But we're not getting one for almost a year after Spider-Man Far From Home. Brandon Valenzuela says, I'm content with Tony's death knowing that they can pluck him from another timeline if needed. I don't think they'll do that. He wouldn't be their Tony. Daryl C. says, so many great character moments and callbacks, fan service done right. Shout out to Wanda for making Thanos tap out like a bitch. So good. I love that part of the movie. Loved it. Orlando Orego says, Endgame was an awesome experience. The theater that I was in were reacting to every moment of the movie, and we can talk about cry time moments with Tony and Cap. Teared up when Tony hugged Peter. Me too. So, the end was brutal. Brutal. DeClem1 says, Thanos must be like Super Smash Brothers with how he used the Power Stone to punch Captain Marvel away until Tony's funeral. So good. So good. Reese is definitely in the top 5 fave MCU movies. Could praise it all day. Just hated how Thor was handled. Hulk didn't get his rematch, but at least Cap got the hammer. Yeah, you know, they just did different things. I mean, Hulk saved the universe. Troll Puncher says, bravo Marvel for an enjoyable film. Absolutely, bravo. So good. A fan of Peanuts says, John and Robert, how awkward do you think it was for Captain America to return the Soul Stone to the Red Skull? Awkward. How do you think that conversation went? Not well. But you know what? Maybe they put down arms and they talked about what was going on in the world. Because the Red Skull would want to know. He's been gone since... They both were men out of time. Maybe Captain America slipped him his list of things he had to discover from pop culture. Alan Gonzalez says, I was right about other movies mixing in Endgame. It's true. It did. I thought they did a very clever job with that, though. Trey Brown says, do you think Hulk will ever recover? And that surprise was one of the best. His snap and him being smart. I agree with you, Trey. I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved it. Bats 2020 says, Cap punching Thanos in the chin with Mjolnir and then using the shield and the hammer together. Most epic moment in the movie for me. Me too. One of the most epic moments in any movie. Glitter Geek TV says, I thought we would see some Skrulls for sure. Nah, I don't think there's any place for them. We'll see. They'll deal with those in future Captain Marvel movies. Marlon Cool Kitten says, you see the thing where some are saying Marvel isn't doing enough for the LGBTQ community? People will never be satisfied, even after Russo's gay character. Yeah, I know. The thing is, you know, there's not a whole lot of sexuality in general in these movies. And I don't know if there's a place for them. They are, after all, comic book films, and they really, especially the MCU, they're all ages movies. So, I don't know. But we'll see. It was cool that we saw Captain America treating a gay man with the utmost respect as a person, as a human being, not as somebody who's gay. I thought that was a big, bold step. Richie Scott says, first time chatter, really enjoying your content. How did Cap age at the end? I feel silly. Did I miss how he can do this? Well, you didn't miss how he can do it. He just went back in time and lived his life from 1945 to 2023 or whatever year that was at the end of the movie. Goji King 54 says, thoughts on Falcon carrying the Cap mantle. I loved it. I thought it was terrific because he deserved it. He deserved it. Paul Stevenson says, really disappointed in Endgame. First 2 acts bored me, and by the time the final act came along, I lost interest, really gutted. Well, Paul, sorry to hear you say that, but, you know, not everybody loves everything. I thought the first 2 hours were great because I was really interested in seeing how society was affected. I thought they did a really good job of that. But, you know, you don't have to love every movie. I'm just happy you wrote in and shared your opinion. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Film Boss says Thor can absorb the energy from a star, yet a few barrels of Earth ale can get him drunk and fat. His powers and strength are always iffy in each film. It's true, but he'd been sitting around for 5 years, sedentary. He was still at peak form when, he absorbed the power of a star. Mazzone said would have loved to see Cap get the Soul Stone and confront Red Skull one last time. Yeah, or not confront it, but talk. I mean, poor Red Skull. John Benedict says, I do hope some of the lingering plot holes are resolved in some of the future films or Disney Plus shows. Otherwise, they didn't bother me as much in this. I think they are going to be resolved. I think we're going to get resolution. They know what they need to answer. They're on top of it. Akshu Davala says, hey, John, loved the movie and had some great moments, but I still feel like Infinity War was the better movie and was more balanced and complete. I thought it was a different kind of movie. I thought Endgame was really ambitious, but Infinity War, oh, boy, did I love it. I don't know which one was better. I think time will tell. I think they're a monumental achievement if you take the films together. I really do. Ross Pitt Shark Hunter says, I drank at least half of my very large drink in the first hour of the film, and I didn't need to pee once. Not even until I got home. Speaking of, I might need to see a doctor about a urinary problem. Probably true. Rock Lobster number 9 says, I've seen it 4 times now, and I think Hulk could have made Cap young again. I know why he didn't, though, so Cap could get his send-off. I don't think Cap would have wanted it. I really don't. A fan of Peanut says, John and Robert, how the hell did Captain America return the Soul Stone without sacrificing a life? Thank you. Thank you. Can you explain this better? Thanks. I don't. I think it's a story for another day. I think we're going to find out. I think old Cap might tell us that story. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to an end. It absolutely brings me to the end of this. the second of I don't know how many of me answering super chat questions from our epic 5-hour spoiler review. It's incredible. I want to thank you guys for the support you give us for the channel. We couldn't have it without you. We couldn't do this without you. I really appreciate you letting me come on John's show and being an active participant and that you like me. I think that's great. I love that I've been doing these things. They're a lot of fun. You can find me, of course, on Twitter at BurnettRM. You can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or you can find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, or its companion website, theburnettwork.net. So once again, from the John Campea Show, I want to thank you. Thanks for supporting the channel, and thank you for watching. And I love saying this. As always, until next time, bye-bye.